All right, joining me now, Andreas from the band Blisterhead. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely, big fan. You guys, I've been listening to a couple years before Storm by the Sea came out, and that was your last release. That was, what, 5 years ago now. It's amazing that that was 5 years ago.
It's 5 years ago and a pandemic,
Right,
so
right.
it feels like, I don't know, another life.
Yeah, it does seem like that. So, The Stormy Sea was a fantastic album. Was it Pirates Press or was it no, it was Liberty or Death Records and Lake Town Records. That's right. So that's
Yeah.
where I came across that release as it was coming out, though I had already been listening to you guys prior to that. But you guys have a new album that is coming out. It'll be out Friday, which is about the time that this will be out. Before we get into that, though, why don't you give me a little history of the band? Because you're not a new band. You're a band that's been around. I think is this going to be your sixth album?
This is our sixth full-length album, and we've done a couple of EPs and a bunch of demo recordings before that. We actually started touring Europe on demos, like we had CDRs and an old Dodge van. So we did a couple of different countries before even getting the first album released. But we started back in 1998. So I was 16 years old. So Blister is very much like our coming of age story. It's we call it our second family, like our punk rock family is Blister. So me and Kim and Eric, we are like the members who started the band. So we've known each other for most of our lives, and I think this year will be 28 years with Blisterhead. In the first couple of years, since we were teens, it was like I think like most people start a punk rock band in their teens. You get to discover everything together. Like we knew a couple of Swedish punk bands. We've been listening to punk rock for maybe 3 or 4 years since I was 16. But then you discover everything together, and you influence each other. And the whole idea from the beginning was that Eric played in a ska band called the Agents. Kim had a hardcore band called F-Ray. They met up on like different parties, and they discovered that they enjoy the same kind of punk rock, and that is the Clash, the Ramones, and all this like '77 punk rock thing, also mixed in with some American punk rock like Rancid. So they had an idea about starting a melodic punk rock band. Uh, they asked me to join because Eric knew that I played a little bit of guitar, and he said, "You want to play the bass for a band?" So we started out strong. We did a couple of demo recordings, and right away we got offered some shows in like abroad. For us, that was we did a couple of England tours pretty early in really shitty conditions, like horrible things that you wouldn't do today as an adult. But we had no real experience, and we just loved getting on the road. So we really, if it's one thing that I could write on like sign for this band is that we paid our dues really, really well, I would say. Uh, but that also results in like, yeah, it feels like watching Stand By Me or any other of these. I mean, Blister is that's my youth. It's my family, and today it's so fun to have like we have kids that are teenagers themselves, and you can tell that like Blister played a major part in our lives because it's reflected in our kids as well, and we've been able to get, well, the oldest of them at least pretty interested in rock and roll or like music that's not on the radio today. So so Blister has been around for a very long time. We had like a big kind of when we had a record label in Sweden in the 90s called Burning Heart. We never worked with them. I don't think we were good enough back then or old enough to be able to contact them really. But they had a couple of bands like Bombshell Rocks, Voice of a Generation. I think Refused actually gave out albums on that label, and a Swedish band called Monster, which we adored, and Randy the Band, who I think played a lot in US, like Punk Rock Bowling and stuff. They also had stuff with Epitaph. But all these bands influenced us very much. And they all sang in English, like our favorite punk bands did, like The Clash and Ramones. And they sort of paved the way for a couple of younger bands like us. We played with most of these bands when we were pretty young. And then something happened, Burning Heart disappeared, and all the bands in Sweden that sang in English kind of dropped off. And we grew older, and as we look at the scene today, I think we're the oldest band that's still around from the 90s street punk wave in Sweden. Because there was like a thing, at least our German labels, and we had a couple, they've always said like, yeah, you know, Swedish street punk, like a genre of its own. But yeah, our sixth album, we've given out records on Russian, Italian, Polish labels, Swedish labels, and German labels. And we toured all over Europe. I think by the time I was 25, I think we've done like 18 or 19 different European countries for tours. So we're pretty much a touring, like hardworking band. That's in our mind, at least. Then the last couple of 10 years, when we had younger kids, and it felt like when we tried, like really tried again, like with the Stormy Sea 6 years ago, 5 years ago, then the pandemic happened, and so we haven't been in a absolute ideal place to be a touring punk rock band. But today we are, once again. So we have shows booked. We feel like we're in the right place to represent Blisterhead. Perhaps the best place ever for us.
That's fantastic. I've got so many follow-up questions. So
Yeah.
first, you as a band, you know, a lot of punk bands, a lot of people start in punk bands in their teens, as you did, but so few actually stayed with that band. And so you actually, the longevity of your punk career can really be tied to the band that you're currently in. So do you feel, you know, I've asked bands before, you know, even just like 10 years ago for certain bands, the stuff that you wrote about and maybe the stuff on those first albums, on those demos that you were talking about, how attached or relevant are those to you personally, as in, you know, what those songs and those lyrics and things meant to you guys when you wrote that music back in the late 90s, in your teens, as it were, compared to now? How many of those songs are like, yeah, I totally dig that song still. Let's include one or two of those in a set. Like how likely is that?
Uh, it's a very good question. I think that when we look at our like the old stuff we did, you could find certain values in it, like musically. Lyric wise, it's very naive. It's very punk rock for because we are 16, 17 years old. Uh, it could be a little bit embarrassing. It's like telling someone your first Hotmail address or something like that.
Right?
Because I mean, it's in print. People own these albums. We can't like make it disappear. It's not like when you went to a party when you're like 15, and our generation got away with it because no one ever filmed us or took pictures at like a party. So you could be a 15, 16-year-old teen and still have your dignity as an adult. But when you play in a band and you give out records and it's there for everyone to see, I think I try to look at it as a kind of a photo album. It's like, this is who we were back then, and I can easily stand by it because we have always been somewhat mature in our views of the world. Like we've always been anti-racist, anti-sexist, anti-fascist, but we were 16, 17 years old. So it's a lot of drinking beers and, going out with the boys. And our world was much smaller back then, of course, because we didn't have the same experiences. Um, there's, I don't know, we actually made a new set list, or we're going to rehearse tomorrow and like set the whole set list for tours and gigs this spring. I think it's one song from the first album.
Oh, well, that's good that,
Yeah,
one song still makes it there.
and that's because it kind of has been like an anthem for us, even if it never like became a hit or anything. But the song is called "The Sound of Unity," and it's still relevant for us because we sing about ourselves. Really, it's a song about Blisterhead that Kim wrote when we were teens. But the song is it's a good song, and it's not so much of the it's not the most embarrassing stuff we've done, really, lyric wise. So we hang on to that at least for this tour, but we try to make it interesting for ourselves, and we try to give the new album a decent chance to become people's favorite album, or something that if we have like younger teens in the audience, we want to present the best version of Blistered, and that's us right now, really. So this is our best album so far. I think we do 12 or 13 songs in a set, and half of them is just the new album. And then there's stuff from the Stormy Sea and one or two older ones.
Well, I think you're doing it right then, right? Because if you say that your current album's not the stuff that the band in general says this is our best stuff, then you're probably not in it anymore for the right reasons, right? You're just spitting out music to spit out music. Otherwise, we're constantly saying, "Hey, we have the stuff we had, we like it, but we can do this, and we like this better now for whatever reason." And just as you pointed out, when you're younger, you're less experienced. I think people they change. They change after they have children. Once you've had children, once you have a family, once you have people you have to care for, certain things, the drinking and the partying and, certain things you kind of evolve a little bit out of, or maybe less involved. I think, as you pointed out, though, like you're either a person that is not racist, against fascism, you're all those things. You don't really evolve into it. As you
Yeah,
get older, you're not like, oh, I wasn't racist, but now I'm gonna be, or something to that effect. And, maybe if you were, you can kind of see that wasn't probably the way to go. But the point is when you're young, as you said, mature views, I think you can have those views and that's not the thing that you're maturing out of. You're just maturing out of the things that were carefree, and again, just to go back to what you said, some of those early tours you did, you wouldn't do now as an adult. Your life experience is different. It's not something you're willing to do. You're probably better places in your life. When you're a teenager, jobs and money and stuff like that is much more scarce as opposed to when you've been an adult for a couple decades and you have a family. You now have probably better financial abilities and stuff like that. So all of those things kind of come into play, and then the things that you're probably wanting to sing about are also different. Hence, you go back and be like, yeah, maybe a little embarrassing some of the things that we sung about, and so it wouldn't be embarrassed to have created it, right? Because at that moment, that's what you were, that's what you felt,
yeah,
those are things. So that's not anything to be embarrassed about. But to be, a 40 something and to get up on stage and sing about the things that were relevant to you at 16 years old probably feels a little silly in some instances. That example I was given earlier was Mark from Booze and Glory. He talked about him having a daughter now and getting up on stage and singing about drinking and fighting and some of the stuff that Booze and Glory was putting out, even in like 2009 up to like 2013. He feels silly singing about some of those things because that's not where he's at in his life anymore. And that's even a much smaller gap compared to what you guys were creating, a decade before that, even.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you have to. None of us are Peter Pan, even if we would like to be. And but I mean, I'm really proud of everything really we've done with Blisterhead. I just think that when we're on stage, we want to make it interesting both for us ourselves and for the audience. And the best material is the new stuff because we're better at writing. We probably have a little bit more knowledge both about like music and especially about the world. And it could, I mean, when you watch, I don't want to say any like mention names, but I mean, there's been punk rock bands where you see it's like a 40 or 50-year-old dude, and I mean, he looks like he's cast for a high school movie. And I mean,
Yeah.
it's all fun and games if you enjoy that, it's fine. It's just that we are evolved as a band and just want to present the best songs. And I mean, if we were at a show and someone asked us, like, could you please play that song? If we still know it, we would play it. It's not like we would hide anything. Just that we think that we do both ourselves and the audience the best favor by playing this set that we have now. That's
And with anything though, you get better with practice too. So you
yeah.
guys at musicians, you didn't peak at 16 years old, and
No,
you're at the same abilities. You obviously have become better musicians as you would from having created as much music as you have, and even I think the other aspect to it, discarding the lyrics of any of those older songs, going back to those songs, you would maybe want to play them differently. As with any band that's been around and has had five, soon to be six albums and all the other music that you've created, if you played any of those songs for any amount of time, I can't remember. I think I was listening to somebody talk about Nirvana the other day, and Kurt Cobain, I think like "Smells Like Teen Spirit," right? He hated that song. He hated playing it live. So he intentionally played that song different live and different like pretty much every time they played it because of the repetitiveness. He didn't really like the song anyway, but he continually played it different. And I'm sure, thinking back to what your writing capabilities were at 16, there's probably things that if you were to play some of those songs, you would probably tweak or do a little different. And it wouldn't be like I could go hear the song recorded and then immediately you guys jump on stage and play that song. It wouldn't sound identically, right?
no, it would not. And I think even like most of the songs that we play have, without like a decision, but they have evolved into some kind of live version after you played it, I don't know, 50 times, 300 times. So the song that we still play from the first album, I mean, it sounds probably a little bit different than the album version. And but also like a couple of songs from the new album, which we're gonna start playing now. They already have small stuff that is different than the album version because we recorded this album over a weekend and we record live. So and by decision we didn't rehearse too much before the recording. We just got the songs together in an arrangement that we wanted to present them in, and we still wanted a little bit of that nerve in it. So I did all the bass lines, and when we recorded everything and we start listening, like okay, now we're gonna rehearse to tour on this album. I usually have to go back and listen to what I recorded and like try to figure it out because we feel that it gives the recording some kind of danger or tension or nerve when everyone's on their toes, because we haven't done this 1,000 times and just burp it up, so to speak. We're still very focused and in the moment in the studio. But like you said, I mean, I've heard the Kurt Cobain story. I know, I mean, Dylan tried to make an art form of ruining his own songs for the audience. Like, fuck you, I'm not going to play it like you want me to. Um, and I understand that as an artist or a musician on stage. You try to, I mean, maybe 2 years down the line, he feels like the song should have been like this, or it's more fun to play it like this right now, or this suits the kind of band I have right now. I don't know. There could be 1,000 different reasons, but songs are, for us at least, they are quite living creatures. And we record it in a way also because we like, this is getting long, I feel. No, but when you record an album, we still like the idea of an album. Like, for me, it was London Calling. When I was 12, I discovered that the Clash album. And it's like, it's a record, but it's for me also like a movie. It has a beginning, a middle, a point of no return, an ending. I see it in pictures in my brain, and everything melts together. So the concept art, the album, like even the smell of it. When I hear a couple of songs from London Calling, I feel who I was when I first heard it, the teen, and I still appreciate the album both as a 13-year-old and as a 43-year-old. And I think we like that concept about an album. So if a song needs like some kind of a guitar intro for the album, we'll do it. But maybe when we play it live, we'll skip the fading in 10 seconds of this and we go straight to the big drum intro because it suits a live show better to capture the audience. And I think it's always been that case for us, that just try to do it as interesting as possible. And it's two different mediums, an album and a live show. And hopefully, and in most cases, I think that if you like Blisterhead's album, you're going to love the live show, because we try to record live and do the same thing, but there's going to be slight differences.
That makes sense. And, to be fair, the Clash, if they were still playing those, still able to play those, they wouldn't be playing that music the same. Like if you
Yeah,
pulled out that 1970s, any of their records from the 70s, 80s, any of them, and if they were still around to be playing that music, those wouldn't sound the same. They would probably play them different. They would have played them who knows how many thousands, if not hundreds of
yeah,
thousands of times. There's no way. They're just going to be like, no, I'm bored with this. Oh, this could be this. And when it comes to creating anything, if you become a perfectionist, you'll never get anything released, right? Because you'll always be like, oh, I could do this and we could do that. And so you got to do something that you're happy with. And just
yeah,
like you said, what you said is probably the best way to do it. And that's, let's we know what we want. We kind of know what the song is. Let's go do it. When it's done, you hear it like, yep, that's good. Get it on the record. But then it can evolve and change. And why wouldn't it? Because, if it's something that you enjoy, there's always something that you could probably be like, oh, if we did this a little bit slower, faster, whatever, then, add something in, take something out. And just as you pointed out, play some parts and don't play other parts when it comes to the live show. So because of those changes, you don't want to get too attached to how perfect it's going to be on the record, because it's probably never perfect. It's always the eye of the beholder. Some people will be like, don't change a thing. It's perfect as it is. Or, if you play
yeah,
it like going to see, I saw Dropkick Murphys a couple last year, the year before, it's probably the year before, at Punk Rock Bowling. And, you know, Al Barr's taking care of his mom, right? So Al Barr is not able to perform. Ken Casey's. Al Barr, Ken Casey, their vocals are not the same.
no,
They're great to combine. They're great to go back and forth. They're great to have one song, one guy do one guy do the other. But when Ken Casey does all the parts of the popular songs and he's doing Al Barr's parts, you're like, that doesn't sound right. That's a difference that you're like, I don't know if I'm a big fan of that. I mean, feel free, it's your music. And I totally understand why Al Barr's unable to play. The rest of the band is. But for personal reasons, it's like, nah, that's not a good change. But
yeah,
for a band to make subtle things here and there not include a thing. I think generally speaking, you're just happy and the band's there and that's the song, right? And you're
Yeah.
like, yeah, that's great. And it's even better live because if it if you're like, oh, that sounds exactly like it does on the record, I mean, you're borderline, what's the point of being at the show? So you probably want some of those things that make it even better seeing live that's different from the record.
Yeah, and when you've been when you have been a band like that focused on a live show, because that was one of the first amendments, so to say, about Blistered was that we loved the showmanship of 50s rock and roll, and we loved the expression and like the furiosity of punk rock. We tried to combine them to some kind of aggressive, tutti frutti, Little Richard thing. And we have played so many shows that we feel like we try to get to know the audience during the show. If we feel like they need a pick me up, we might just in the moment turn around and like, okay, do the drum part one more time. We're gonna try to um, raise some energy, and all these things can be done without planning, just on stage, eye contact. Let's do take it from the top one more time, or just quit it and go straight into this. And we were able to do so quite well, and that makes it way more exciting for us as well be to see like the whole concert room as a living, breathing creature that we are a part of, and maybe we're the captain on that ship, but people are in it, and we need water and waves and motion, and we want to make like a memory or experience for anyone who's there to feel like fuck yeah, punk rock still matters. This is cool.
Right. And I
Yeah,
think that that goes with any live performance. We go to live performances to kind of let whoever the performer is take us on the journey, right? I
yeah,
just want to, strap in the seatbelt and you take me where we're going, whether it be
yeah,
stand-up comedy, whether it be a play or a musical or something like that. And then obviously going and seeing bands perform live music. We're there watching for the journey. And I think people appreciate it and can see it when you're guiding the journey as opposed to just, oh, it's a listening party, right? Because I think, we've all been to concerts where it kind of sounds more like a listening party than an experience. And we all we're there for the experience, not specifically for a listening party.
yeah. I think so. I would hope so, especially when you're into like, well, punk rock is my scene and what I know, but I also listen to a lot of like outlaw country stuff. And some folk, Americana stuff, and those shows as well. I want honesty and open hearts and someone to give from themselves. That's why I think it's more interesting. I think with like both punk rock and that type of country instead of the polished. I have. I don't want to feel like I'm presented a product.
Right.
Uh, I want the band or the artist. In my mind, I would like them to perform whether I'm there or not. It's like something they need or want to do. Uh, and they wouldn't really, I mean, everyone wants an audience, but it's an expression that they need. It's not a product. It's not their, it could be their livelihood. Nothing wrong with that. But I mean, I don't. I wouldn't pay money to go into Volvo or a big factory and watch someone assemble a motor for the I don't know 10
Right.
times time of his or her life. But I want to see someone express something that means something to them. So I don't want a product on stage. I want people to see that Blistered care about Blistered. This is
Right.
important for us. Yeah, and that
I
should
prefer to go
be.
to shows when there's a lot of people, right? Because
Yeah.
if I went to a show, I'm going to see a band that I like, so I would be really disappointed if there's a small crowd, which I've been to. But I think when you end up at those shows, or maybe in your case, if you've performed any of those shows where there's very few people, then you can tell, just as you pointed out, if they're there because they want to be performing. And so there's, a small crowd, but then the show's still great. Then you can tell the band they don't care. They're just
Yeah,
like, all right, whatever, we're here. We're going to do the show because we want to do the show, as opposed to if you see a band that's disappointed in the performance and then it's reflecting in their performance.
yeah. I think actually Blistered has done some of our best performances for so few people, so little people, because we have always had like an attitude, and especially when you were young and like on tour, you drove all the way down to, I don't know, southern Italy, and there's like, I don't know, 13 people showing up on a Tuesday night or something. And then we're like, we're gonna fucking show them. This is gonna be like, and we come together, and it's almost more energetic because we feel like we have something to prove, and we won't like. I remember we talked about it so many times, like hyping ourselves up for like a bad show just by looking at it. It's like, okay, there aren't many people here. But we want those people to go home and be like, to their friends that didn't show up or whatever, and be like, you really missed something. This was crazy how these people went about things on stage for that small audience. And I mean, we played for everything between 3 people in the audience and 2,000 on a festival or whatever. And it's it's no difference for me. It's like just as long as you have someone to, and it could be ourselves, like in the rehearsal space. Sometimes I get a feeling like, yeah, we're such a great punk rock band. I feel that when we just stand there together and doing this, and that makes me really happy as well. So, and I wish for everyone to experience that in some way, like creatively, or it could be like with a, I don't know, sports team or whatever people do that I don't do, but to have that like feeling that this is important for us together.
Right.
This is something special. Uh, I hope everyone gets to enjoy something similar to that in their lives. Yeah.
Two things. One, to go back to what you were saying earlier about if somebody asks you guys to play something older, and if you guys remember, you'd play. I was thinking at that moment, do you often get anybody saying, "Hey, I really like your first album or your second album or something"? Uh, do you play those songs, or would you play more of those or something like that comparatively? And then the follow up to that is, uh, what's the excitement level compared, to each album roughly? To, you put out your first album and that feeling you get compared to, all the way through up until now when you're putting out a new album. How's that compared? Does it get more exciting, or is it always just really exciting, or how does that work for you?
I think it's been, at least for me, I can probably speak for both Kim and Eric, who's been, well, it's been 3 of us for the whole ride. I think the first album is something special because we were young. Not, I mean, we had a lot of people played in bands that we hung out with, because if you're in a band, you're gonna hang out with other people who plays in band. But I think we were one of the first that actually got signed. It's like a punk signing. They would print 1,000 copies or something. We got 200 of those. That was it. They paid for the pressing, and we were able to do some shows. But to have the first album in your hand, that was super special. But I don't know if it was because of the first album or because how young we were, and it was like a first experience thing. Um, but we always felt really good about recording an album. It's exciting. We like the whole, well, everything about it really. I've heard people complain about like, yeah, okay, it's boring to record or it's boring to do all the stuff when the recording's done, because there's like a bunch of stuff you need to do with artwork and planning and videos and singles and emailing and trying to get people like you to listen to us, and so the album can be heard. I think we like all of it. But I would say first album, special thing, hard to compare to anything. And then it would always be the latest album. The latest album is the most exciting because it's happening now and you're living it. I felt the same way with The Stormy Sea. I felt the same way with the album before that. I certainly feel it now with Where We Belong. Maybe a little bit extra because it's the first album for our new drummer. We had one change of members in the whole history of Blisterhead, and it's been like a year and a half ago that our old drummer left, and not because any arguments or anything like that. He just didn't have the time in his adult life to do this anymore in the same way that the rest of us wanted to. So we have a new drummer, which of course adds a little bit of energy, mostly because now we're 4 individuals on the same page again, trying to do the same thing. And it's really exciting for us, and it's nice to just feel that everybody wants this as much as me. So first album and last album, that would be my answer.
It's good,
And
and it makes sense.
always the last album.
Yeah,
You
it makes
say
sense.
that, yeah.
You're always working on improving, and then you feel like your best work's your current work, and so that would
Yeah.
make sense that the excitement level goes up every time, and
Yeah.
and you're most excited for that one. So, yeah, I get that. Let's talk about Where We Belong now. So that'll be out February 27th, which will probably be the day that this comes out. So at the point that anybody hears this, it pretty much is out. I mean, by the time I put this out, even if I get it out early, I'm sure it'll be February 27th in Europe, at least
Yeah.
at that point.
Yeah.
So that's coming out. You guys have 3 singles on that. Why don't we talk about those? I mean, they're obviously the lead tracks, but it's a full length, so there's a ton on there. But let's focus in on those 3 tracks. Anything you want to share on the 3 singles?
For the first single, we tried. I mean, this was this sounds like a sales pitch, I know, but it was so hard to choose singles for this album. We actually, we discussed it a bunch of times, we listened, and each time we talked about it, we came up with different singles. So Eric, our guitarist, he decided to, we needed help, so we sent the album to a couple of people that's been into punk a really long time in Sweden. We played in bands or booked shows or whatever, and asked them, like, what's your favorite 3 songs here? So maybe we could, because sometimes it's hard to hear your own stuff, and you can't, like, you don't really know what people will like most of it. And we got totally different answers from each one of them. So we just tried to choose with gut feeling, I guess, and to present, because we have 2 lead singers in Blisterhead, Kim and Eric. Well, historically, I think they have like 50-50 of the songs that they are singing on. So we just needed to have both of them represented in 3 singles. So Eric sings on 2 of the singles, Kim sings on 1 of the singles. And also we tried to show a little bit. I mean, Blisterhead has one sound. We play punk rock and roll. It's a lot of 50s rock and roll hidden in there somewhere. But it's basic punk rock stuff. It's 3 chords and sing your heart out kind of stuff. But we wanted the songs to reflect the whole album. So that was the thought process going into it. And we play, like now we've done a couple of rehearsals preparing for tours and gigs, and we play 6 or 7 songs from the album in the new set. So we play all the singles, and we think they earned a spot in the live set. So we don't have any songs on this album that's like a product of the studio, which we really couldn't do justice live because everything is recorded live in one weekend, and which makes it easier, I think. We've done a couple of songs earlier in our career that when we tried to, I don't know, experiment a little bit or try to get some kind of other angle from the band Blisterhead, but it's hard. I mean, we're pretty much a product of who we are and how we sound together. That's just how stuff comes out. You could give us a Janis Joplin tune or Frank Sinatra tune, and it's gonna sound like Blisterhead when we play together. So
On that note, I don't mean
yeah,
to interrupt, but do you have any covers that you guys include in a set? Uh, whether it be Janis Joplin or
we have had a couple of covers during the years. Uh, right now, we're gonna do. This is supposed to be like a secret thing, but I mentioned a Swedish band called Monster, which was like a punk rock offbeat band with horns and Hammond organ. And they were amazing for what 3 years, and then they disappeared. And we always in Blisterhead had like an admiration for this album, and one of their singles we're gonna play together with our friends in the Liptones, which is a ska band. So they're gonna back us up with Hammond and horns. Otherwise, we've played everything from The Clash to Tom Petty, but we like to have one cover rehearsed, and then we just change it every now and then. And you're not going to go to a Blistered show to hear other people's songs because it's one cover maximum, and that's mostly for our own sake. Just like this is so good, come just rehearse it once so I can play it because I want to play Spanish Bombs by The Clash, or I want to play whatever. And usually we've chosen so poorly when we choose covers because we choose songs that we love. But I mean, people haven't heard it. Like we played some Tom Petty song. It's not like Free Falling. We played one of his more like older pop. I think we played Apartment song. It's called. It's like a rock and roll song, but nobody has heard it with Petty in our audience. So they don't know it's a cover. So it's not like we're trying to charm the audience. We just do covers for our own peace of mind. Like, we love this song, let's play it. So it's never going to be "We Will Rock You" by Queen or something like that. It's just people won't notice.
well, you guys have enough music of your own, why would you? Again,
Yeah,
I think a lot of times, I think my opinion, bands do covers to either fill a set
yeah,
or I guess the third reason would be because their music's not as well known, so they want to show like, hey, we can play some cool songs too, but here's our stuff. Or the third reason, and that's just tribute, like, hey, these are some people that influenced us, kind of a nod
yeah.
to that band at this time, is probably why. And obviously that's the reason it appears you guys would cover a band. And it makes sense. I mean, those are the reasons why you have plenty of your own music, so you wouldn't,
Yeah,
there's
we
no
don't
point
need
in,
to.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
in any It's also a little bit of ego boost because if we play what we think is like an amazing song by Tom Petty and no one notices, it doesn't stick out in our set, then we're like, yeah, okay, so our material has a pretty good level of craftsmanship because nobody noticed that we snuck a Tom Petty song in
Right.
there. But that's just for us. Um, yeah, but I mean, I could enjoy a band playing maybe one or two covers, especially if I had a couple of beers. But I'm not interested in cover bands.
Right.
We have like friends who play in full-time cover bands, and usually they are like people who in some way work with music, like maybe they're working in the studio or they're really great at like instrumentalists or something like that. but I tend to feel that if you're too much of a musician, it's hard to be a rock and roll band because the flaws and the small odd things is what makes a really good rock and roll band. It's not like a biopic about Queen. You can't look at it like a visual board and like, yeah, all the meters are on 100. This is perfect, like a stat machine or something. Because rock and roll band is the chemistry between individuals and could be interesting if it almost falls apart, but it's never interesting if it's like computer science. This is rock and roll in this box. Doesn't interest me.
Right. Bands that stand on the X on the stage, don't leave your spot, play your instrument,
Yeah,
those kind of things. Yeah.
yeah. It's hard for me to understand the charm in that, so to speak. But that's probably a punk rock thing as well. I mean, I like if you'd rather be really into it and hit a wrong note every now and then than to try and just do something perfect with no feelings.
On the three singles, then, were there any particular, lyrically, musically, anything that you want to, I don't know, point out or anything that's special to
I
you
think
about
that,
those?
yeah, I would say that because of the thing we talked about with when we launched the last album, Stormy Sea, 5 years ago, and the pandemic that followed, so we had to cancel like all the shows and tours we had planned, and everything kind of fell apart. So when we started thinking about doing a new record, and Kim and Eric started to come up with some ideas, I think Kim quite early came up with the second single, which is the title of the album as well, Where We Belong. And that is really about the whole family Blisterhead. Like this is what we do. This is something we do very well, and we figured out that we can't be without it. So Where We Belong is really a important song for us, and I think it reflects the whole album and the whole attitude about it. It's got like this is Blisterhead, and it's always going to be Blisterhead. And we thought about it, we talked about it when like our last drummer left the ship, so to speak, and we just united in the feeling that this is family and we can't let it go. Yeah, so this is where we belong.
You guys do a really good job, like a lot of bands, especially oi bands, but like other bands, street punk bands, you'll get like gang vocals in the song, like the backup vocals and stuff like that, and it kind of really evokes that feeling of wanting to sing along. But for a lot of your tracks, just the music and the way the vocals are coming out individually, I think really does a good job of kind of evoking that sing along with.
Yeah,
And that track, Wake Up, both those tracks, very like first time listening to them, I'm feeling compelled to sing along with them. They're catchy, but also just kind of get that feeling through the track.
yeah, that's what we aim at. I think we try to. I mean, we're really not any like song coaches, but I think when Kim or Eric records the vocals, we were hunting for that feeling that you said. I want to feel that when Eric lays down his vocals, I want to start shouting because and if I feel like that, then he's doing something right, and then I don't care how it's delivered. Like in, I mean, it doesn't have to be pitch perfect. It doesn't have to be, but it's gotta make you feel something, and
Right.
hopefully makes you wanna sing along. Yeah,
And it does for me.
thank you.
Absolutely. You guys did a great job. It's a killer album, and I really appreciate you sharing it. I'm really excited for the actual release. Were there any songs, you mentioned that there's the three singles you guys committed to those kind of represent both band members or both vocalists anyway. Um, But were there any songs that maybe didn't make the list that you like? Obviously, you're going to like all of the songs. I think, was there 12 songs on the album?
It's 12 songs. Uh, well, we have a couple of more that were really close to making it to singles. We asked the label, I think, as well, and they're like, you can pick whatever you want. We like them all. It's fine. Uh, but we have one song called Up the Cross, which I'm a huge fan of, and we're going to play it live. It's got a little bit of different vibe, maybe, but it's a total rock and roll chorus, and a bit like, I don't know, it feels like a little bit theatrical, maybe in the verses for being a punk band. But I mean, maybe people of like rockabilly or psychobilly, or people who are into noir or burlesque or anything. It has that vibe. I really enjoy that. Um, and we also got a song called Wild One, who it's one of those songs that almost writes itself. We just Kim had an idea, we played it like the very first time, everything just came together, and it's hard to imagine doing something else with it because it's like Lego bricks that just fit together in one way.
Right.
It's so natural, but maybe that's how we feel for us. It's like it's a super. If there ever was like a recipe for a Blistered song, that would probably be it. So those two, I would. I mean, if I get to have a beer and you ask me again, it's gonna be two or three other songs, and maybe just a good night's sleep, and I'll have other answers tomorrow. We're really proud of the whole album. I don't think we ever recorded an album with uh, so many good bearing songs that could be singles. Uh, and I don't know really why it happened now, but that's how I feel. It's Yeah, we are very satisfied.
Well, then, you wrote a good album if that's the case. And by the way, the Wild One, when I listened to the album, I tried to only go through the album once because I wanted to focus more on the singles, as those are the ones you guys released. But the Wild One was the one that stood out the most to me as well,
Yeah,
with accepting the three singles. So, but I dig it. That's definitely going to be on my favorite albums. It's funny, you do these things and it's February and you're like, oh, this one's going to be on my favorite albums of the year. And a lot of times it's true, but then you got 10 more months of music that comes out. But
yeah.
literally, I really believe that you guys did a really great album and definitely will be on my favorites of this year, 2026. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think it's a stupid idea from us to release an album in February, as you said, because nowadays there's so many people that could help your band, like you, that do like lists or at least some kind of, even Spotify has done like this wrapped thing that every band and people like do as well. So I think as a band, it would be way smarter to release something in like October, November, so you are fresh in the memory when people are going to summarize the year. But we couldn't wait for this one. It's it's too much fun.
Right. And it makes sense based on, you guys are going to have shows, which we need to talk about next, but, you want to
Yeah,
have your music out for when you're going to go do shows. And, most people, I guess, unless you're in Australia, but for most people in the punk rock world, the tours and the festival season and all that stuff starts to pick up like in April as it starts to warm up here in the Northern Hemisphere. And so you get April and May and June, all of those things. And so ideally, it would make sense for February, March, or April to have something out. Then you get to kind of play it throughout the whole year as opposed
yeah,
to, as you pointed out, it depends on how thorough people are. Me, I actually, every single month, I keep lists of all the stuff, talk about it on the podcast, all the stuff that I'm aware of that's coming out. But then when the month ends, I go back through that whole list of what came out in the month and start putting to the side. And I just did my list. Try to do it in like January for the previous year because I sometimes don't even hear things until, oh, that came out like 5 weeks ago. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't hear about it when it first came out, and it's hard to because there's so much stuff. But I try to listen to it, and then a lot of those releases, January, February, March, kind of as you pointed out, they tend to fall by the wayside when, for me, I'm listening to and putting out so much music through the podcasts each year that when I go back to my specific list, I'm like, oh yeah, that was this year. That was a really good album. It's been
Mhm.
a while, and it's almost like a new album for me. I mean, the way I'm doing it, it's almost as if the album does kind of re-release for myself personally because I've listened to so many
Yeah.
other things as they come out, and then I come back and remember how much I liked that album. So now I'm listening to it again because I'm getting like, all right, which ones do I like best? And then I get to hear it
Mhm.
again, like, oh yeah, that was so good.
So yeah, it's really good for you. I wish I was as structured, but I mean, because you work with this in some way, and you have to, well, you have to be structured and to be able to do this. I tend to do what you talk about. Like I forget stuff that I really like, even if someone gives out a new album, I listen to it a couple of times. Like, yeah, this is so good, and then it falls off. I don't know why, and because I'm not structured at all. I could forget it for 3 years and be like, why did I stop listening to this? Um, but and I also think it's a little bit hard. I try to be as curious as I was when I was like a teenager or younger, but it gets harder because there's so much more things that fills up your day. So I don't have the same energy, I guess, in the like in the evening time to discover new music. And also, I mean, when you play a lot or rehearse or record an album, I don't really listen to anything else. You listen to the, the bass lines I try to write, and you listen to our demos, or if we have any, like just cell phone recordings from the rehearsal. And then you listen to all the mixes for a long time. And I can't be bothered with anything else because it clouds like my mind really. So when we're in this phase, like okay, now we have the album is about to get put out, and I know the songs, and we have rehearsed, and now I'm open to new impressions, which is
Right.
really nice. And I tend to feel the same way every time we do an album. Like, okay, so now it's springtime for me, and I can welcome new music in.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Well, so speaking of that, as the album we mentioned a few times comes out Friday, February
Yeah.
27th, what's the plans for playing shows for the foreseeable future? And I guess really this year, what have you guys scheduled?
Well, first of all, on Friday we'll be talking to you again, and a couple of other podcasts, and like a festival in Sweden that we're gonna play later this summer. But we have a couple of like live celebrating the album on Friday night. On Saturday night, we're doing the first show with the new set list with the album for sale. So we're gonna play with two of the most like well-known and old punk bands in Sweden, and they are called Karta 77 and Bonnie from a band called Asta Kask. And the show is called like Three Generations of Punk from Sweden, or Stories from Three Generations. So it's kind of Karta 77 telling their story in music, and Bonnie telling his story in music, and then Blisterhead would be the third generation that you. So we are actually the young guys on the show, the upcoming guys. So that's
Life's about perspective.
yeah, it's all about perspective. That's the first gig, and that's just one day after the album release. And then we have a proper release party in Gothenburg, middle of March, with our friends from the Liptones and Troublemakers. Troublemakers is an old, really great punk rock band that we're friends with. And between that, we're going to Malmö in Sweden to play with the Bones, which is like a Swedish old school punk rock and roll band as well. I think they've been to Germany a bunch of times and toured a lot. But I think we have 18 shows booked so far this year, and mostly is in the spring. But we're going to do, since the album is released on Sunny Bastards Records, which is a German label, we're going to do 3 short trips to Germany. So we're playing like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. One time in March, one time in May, and one time in September, October. So I think we'll do 11 or 12 shows in Germany, and well, maybe 8 shows booked in Sweden so far. And I mean, we've got a bunch of offers going to a lot of countries we've already toured a lot of years ago, but also from countries that we didn't play so much, like Spain and Greece, and we've been talking about it and just see how much we can book, so to speak, because we are adults and we have jobs and families, so it's got to be reasonable, so to speak, but still you have to play a fair amount of shows when you're a small band, because we want people to discover our music, and the best way is to stand in front of them, really.
Right.
And we feel like, because the label has been really positive and great to work with, both the label and booking agency that we work with now. So you want to try to, when they help us, we want to help them, and we want to like build a bond, and we hope that we can do this for a couple of years together with them. And everything is so much easier when you're organized, really, and we could use that help. But we're learning, we're trying, and that's why we do these stuffs. And but yeah, I'm guessing Blisterhead's going to do about 20 shows this year, and we've already talked about what to record and when to record the next thing, so we can have like some momentum and keep things at a steady pace.
Right. That's kind of in lieu of what had happened, right? Like a early 10 or 15 years is kind of when you put out the bulk of your stuff. And then, as
Yeah,
you pointed out, about a decade or so ago, people start having families and you're
yeah,
maturing, so you have less time. And so, kind of a little bit more time in between recordings. And as I pointed out at the top of this, that it's been about 5 years roughly since the last album. So, yeah, I totally get the momentum. What would you like that momentum to carry you into, say, for the future? You talked about going to some other countries. Are there some other festivals that you would like to hop in, in the
yeah. Really, we wanna. I mean, it feels like we have, as I talked early in this interview about, like we as a band, we have paid the dues. Like we did the whole thing, travel like 2,000-3,000 kilometers in one tour. We did European tours, which were like, yeah, we did 22 gigs in 22 days, but that tour spanned maybe 5 or 6 countries. And we just drove for 8 hours every day, and not very well planned tours. So we were like all over the map. And we slept on the floor, we slept on the couches, we did all the squats. I mean, if you find some lousy little squat in Europe, chances are Blisterhead has been there and we have played there. And I mean, I loved it. We needed a little bit more organized for ourselves today, because we are fathers and family men, and don't have the same amount of free time that you have when you're a teen. But we want to do it all. And if we plan properly, I mean, it's possible. It's so much easier today because we're always well rehearsed. We don't need that much time to rehearse something. We don't have even have our own rehearsal space. We just borrow one when we're gonna record an album, and then do a couple of rehearsals before tour starts. And then everything is fine because we know each other musically so well. So we're gonna try to keep playing Germany frequently, and we wanna do all European countries that want us really. Um, and also we haven't played that much festivals with this band for some reason. We planned everything around tours, uh, and we want to do festivals. Yeah, we never played Rebellion Festival in England, which I mean, you really gotta tick that off as a punk band sometime, I think, because I mean they're all there. So that would be something that we want to experience. We did, I don't know, 15 years ago, we did a lot of bigger indoor festivals in Berlin and Praha, and some of these festivals, like the Spirit Festival in Praha, are still around, and we would like to experience that as well. So we really like festivals. It just panned out that way that we didn't do so much of the festival thing. I don't really know why. It's just happened that we said yes to everything and just toured and forgot about the festivals. That's how I think it was. I can't really remember, but yeah, we want to do festivals and we want to do Europe. We also, I mean, we had a couple of semi offers to do America, but when back in the days when Swedish bands went to America, they needed to play like 3 or 4 weeks just to be able to afford the tickets there and home,
Right.
um, and we weren't experienced enough to put that thing together ourselves. It was easier to do it in Europe because we had European labels, so they could help us in each country. Like a couple of our albums were released, but maybe 4 labels together. So we had like a label in Germany and one in Russia and one in Poland, and everyone could help us out in their respective country. So, but I mean, for most bands, America is some kind of dream, I guess, because it's what we grew up on watching, like for everything from American bands to American movies, and we also because we did the whole tour by a van, live in the van thing, which
Right.
feels very American as well. Uh, so maybe festivals in America would be a thing if it's even possible now. I don't know like if it's how hard it is for a Swedish band that's not big, well known, to be able just to get in the country to do punk shows. I'm not sure exactly, but
Uh, I've heard from people it's kind of a pain in the butt to, I guess the best way to do it, which is maybe the worst way to do it at the same time, is you basically go there to travel, and your drummer, obviously, I mean, even anyway, you'd probably want to have the back line helped out, not bring everything, and you're there to tour, like not tour, tourist
yeah,
rather, right? Because it requires like work visas and stuff like that, which is
yeah,
really stupid that they do that because it's hard. If you're, obviously Taylor Swift is a bad example, but a good example in the sense that somebody like Taylor Swift is huge. So if you're some international star, it's probably not that big of a deal and you're going to make a shit ton of money on your
yeah,
big stadium shows and stuff like that. But for bands that are coming and trying to play in front of 40, 80, 200, 300 people for the bulk of the shows until maybe you hopefully hit a festival that's got a couple thousand, then it's just stupid that they would charge and make it so difficult for that. And maybe it's hard to make different exceptions. I don't know. But again, the easiest way is to basically come here to travel for tourism, like fly into New York, tour down the East Coast, and make your way back up 2 weeks later or something back to New York and fly back like you were just there for touring.
yeah,
And then, hopefully somehow you're not caught, which I don't, obviously, I think I haven't ever heard of anybody being going that route and being caught, and then you're probably like banned from the country for a year. I don't know. To be honest, I have no idea what it is, but it's probably something to that effect, right? So you have some negative effect if you get caught trying to do something like that. But on the other hand, punk is so like, again, if you go into pop music, people probably know who you are. Like,
Yeah,
if you're in punk bands, the people that are looking into these things are probably not the people that are like, oh, we're gonna nail them because they're a punk band here on tour, you know. So
they're not.
again, it's the best way to do it because you can show up and you can travel the East Coast, or if you wanted to fly to the West Coast, there's a ton of places you can go from, Vancouver in Canada, but then all the way down the coast and probably play for 2 weeks there as well. It's just that you're running a risk of sorts. And so I know some people make it out to be a bigger deal than it is, like in the last year or two. It's probably not that big of a deal, but of course there is a little bit of a risk involved. And then you have to have something set up ahead of time. It's not one of those things where you're like, hey, let's show up and I bet we could probably schedule some shows. It would be one of those things that you would want to have lined up and make sure that it's
Yeah,
basically you driving from show to show. Your merch, you're going to want to have somebody lined up here with your merch. You're not going to want to travel with it. That's going to be expensive. And obviously, one of those things that you probably don't want to, hey, we're flying into America and we've got these big totes full of T-shirts and records, but we're just here to travel. We just want to see the sights. It's that would obviously be something you'd want to line up to. So, there's a few things that if you can line it up, it's probably fantastic and it's not that big of a deal. But again, if you don't have any connections to line up shows and no way to really get the merch set up to kind of help you pay for a lot of the stuff, because, I have no idea what you're going to make on ticket sales and all those things, then it's probably not worth it then if you're not able to line those things up or if it's too difficult to line those up.
yeah, uh, yeah. I totally hear what you're saying, and but it is it's still being a rock band in America, even if it's just for like 2 weeks for a tourist thing.
Right.
Love the experience, just being on the road in America. I mean,
It's
you
probably that
wouldn't.
way everywhere, to be honest, right? Like
Yeah,
European Union's different now, but like this first year for me, I'm gonna go to a Rebellion Festival this year, first year for me, right? And so it'll be my first time going to the UK. And a friend of mine from Germany who I'm gonna meet there, he pointed out, my wife also saw something that I've got to like register for some digital ID, something or another,
yeah,
to go there. And I'm just going to see the shows.
yeah,
I'm paying money to go sit in a hotel room and then go to Rebellion festivals. Like I'm not trying to make any money at all. I'm not performing anything. And I've got to go through whatever hoops are involved with getting some digital ID that's completely separate from a passport. Like I was just in France a year ago and I rode a train from France through Belgium into the Netherlands and spent an afternoon in the Netherlands too, all on that same trip a year ago. And I didn't even have to show ID anywhere on the
yeah,
train from France and then back. And to get into France, it's just my passport. I go to Mexico or I've been to Costa Rica and I've been to some other places kind of here in the Americas, even Canada, and you just show an ID. So I've never had to do some separate form of registration for some digital ID anywhere. So when it comes down to it, it's probably one of those things that you can travel who knows where and you're going to have to figure out what the hoops are and you jump through them.
yeah. We tried. Me and Kim were actually just like doing a tourist thing to UK 2 years ago, I think. We're just going to see a show, and then they started with these. You had to fill in these applications, and it was form after form after form. And suddenly we got stressed, like when just a couple of days left, and we haven't received all the answers, and we're like, maybe we can't make the flight even because there was so much bureaucracy to fill in just to enter to go. Like, I want to stay in a hotel 2 nights, eat some British
Right.
food, see a rock show, and go home. It's just like a weekend for us, and it was terrible, the paperwork. Um, and I don't know, maybe it's some similar thing you need to go through to get to Rebellion. But I mean, to me, it feels like it should have been so much easier. I mean, it's just people experiencing different countries and just meeting people and spending money in their country, you know. But yeah,
Right. I mean, at this point, everybody tracks. As soon as I go in, they've scanned me and they know that I need to leave the country. And so if I don't leave the country in
yeah,
whatever amount of time, I'm probably, something's wrong. Like, what am I
yeah,
doing still there kind of thing. And I think at that point, pretty much anywhere is like that. We're all digital. They can all easily track people that come in with a passport. And if you don't leave within your week or whatever it is that you're said that you're going to be there, then there's probably a reason that they need to, not individually go track you down, but that you're there and you still shouldn't be there kind of thing. And so to have something completely separate on top of that kind of seems strange. But again, if it's something that I want to do, those are the hoops that I got to jump through to get to it.
yeah. I hope you have a wonderful time experiencing Rebellion.
I do too. Thank you.
Yeah, I hope we'll make it like next year or in the not so distant future, and we can hook up and watch a punk band together.
That would be great. And if you come to the States, there's some cool festivals. Like I was going to ask you earlier, you probably would have mentioned it if it was the case, but they used to do like that pre-Warp Tour festival in Europe before they come here, and your band is totally that style of band. So it'd have been cool if you guys ever had the opportunity to do that European version of the Warp Tour back in those days, because you
Yeah,
started in the heyday of Warp Tour.
yeah, we did, and the Warp Tour was like because I know a couple of bands I think did like these pre things.
Hmm.
Maybe Bombshell Rocks did, or Voice of Generation, or some of these Burning Heart bands did, and that was like a dream for us. We never had the opportunity to do that, but I agree with you that like the Blisterhead DNA sure fits that thing. Yeah,
Right. Well, if you do come to the States, they have some festivals. I forget when Camp Punksylvania, that's in Pennsylvania, so East Coast, pretty easy to get to. Fest that happens in Florida is like October, and your style of punk would easily blend in with those styles of punk. They kind of have a few different genres, not just one, but you would definitely fit in with those bands. There's definitely some maybe some smaller festivals, but those ones are pretty big. I mean, big in the sense that they're getting probably, I haven't counted on the flyer, but 60 to 100 bands probably are performing over a few days at the festival. So big in that sense. I haven't actually been to either of those two, but I would imagine a lot of people are also attending those festivals as well.
yeah. I mean, if it's 60 or 100 bands, then just the bands are gonna be like a lot of
Right?
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is
Right.
one way to do it. I mean, yeah, it works for me.
Right. And I know for festivals here in the States, that's probably the draw. They try to get as many bands from out of the country as possible. I went to the LA Punk Invasion almost a year ago. It was in March, in obviously in Los Angeles. And I would say three-quarters of the bands, or maybe at least half the bands, were from all over, like
Yeah,
Japan and all over in Europe. And I think they had some South American band, they had them from all over Canada. And then
yeah,
obviously you get probably a decent amount in California because California's obviously close, and then you get some other bands from the States. But I think that's how most festivals in the States are, especially if it's a somewhat larger festival. They're trying to get bands from out of the country. That way people are like, oh, geez, I want to travel. I live on the West Coast, but this is an East Coast thing. I'm going to
yeah,
travel because it's not some US band that's going to go on tour and come
yeah,
through my area. It's all these European bands. And for me to go see all those European bands is probably not likely to happen to go see them individually. So I'm going to go to this festival and check them all out.
yeah, yeah. The idea is great. I mean, I organize some punk shows myself, and it's usually because I'm not like a promoter in that sense. It just happens to be like I've toured a bunch of times, so I know punk bands and rock and roll acts from like Italy or England. And when they come to Sweden to do like Stockholm or Gothenburg, and they're like, "Yeah, could you hook us up with something like on a Thursday?" So I've done that a couple of times, and me and my wife have like we call it a pop up rock and roll club. So we don't have like a schedule. It's not like we need to do a show each month because we don't have time. But when the occasion rises, then we can have like a pop-up club for punk rock.
Cool.
So I like the idea, but if I hadn't played a band like in a serious band like this, then I would probably try to organize more shows because I like the whole unit thing about the scene. And
Right.
yeah,
That's
I like,
awesome.
yeah, I like the people involved.
Well, I appreciate you taking all the time you have. Let's get wrapping this up. If people, obviously, if they see you live, that's a great place to pick up the new record. Sunny Bastards Records out of Germany, wonderful label. I try to order from them at least once a year. Obviously, post 2020, shipping was up quite a bit, and starting to creep back down. So it's more reasonable to maybe make some orders to some of those European labels for me personally, anyway, a little bit more often. But where minus you guys and Sunny Bastards Records, are there's other places that people should look to get your hard copies of your record?
We actually, and I haven't figured out the whole details about it, but just I think yesterday we wrapped up so we could have like a shop connected to Spotify. So if you listen to our stuff, you could order our albums and t-shirts straight from the Spotify app. And I think that's Shopify or something. But also we tried just Googling, and this time around the people we work with are so good. So it shouldn't be a problem finding a Blistered album wherever you live, really. I mean, there's been, I think they have a bunch of retailers all over Europe, and that's what I've been told. I hope that's true. So but it should be much, much easier to get a Blistered album in 2026 than there's ever been, actually. So, and if you can't find anything, just let us know on like an direct message on Instagram, and we'll try to sort you out wherever you are in the world. We'll try to help you out.
All right, two more things then. First, tell us where, obviously, Instagram's a good place. Where should people reach out to follow you when some of these shows are coming up or anything new that's happening with the band?
Yeah, we try to be really serious about the Spotify thing, even though Spotify feels like an evil corporation. It's kind of good for smaller bands because it enables us to show our music, and you can see all the tour dates in the same place, and you can order the album in the same place. But I don't think that you could give us a message. So I would say Instagram is the best place for Blisterhead. Facebook works as well. But we try to answer each and every one that like writes to us. We have in that way contact with fans from a couple of countries that always checks in, like when's the new stuff coming. And now when we finally release something for the first time in a couple of years, it's great to have that connection, to be like, I know there's a guy named Lee somewhere in the UK, and he writes to us pretty often, and to be able to say like, hey, Lee, watch out, the album's coming now. And a lot of people send, we have people who made like fan art trying to help us with like posters and stuff, and they made like really cool punk rock stuff with Blistered names all over it, like skulls and all these kind of punk rock images. I love it. I love to see it. It's so fun to be able to have connection with people who like our music all over the world just through internet. It works great. That's one good thing about the whole internet era. I think it's so easy to get closer to people.
Right. I agree. And I'm not a huge fan of social media, the mind suck part of it where you just get
I know
lost
it's consuming.
scrolling, right? But I
Yeah,
love the connection part of it where, you and me can be connected because of that.
yeah,
And the bands out there and people that listen to what I do, but then I get to find people that also listen to the stuff that you do or
yeah.
other things like that. And we can be connected and we're all over the planet. I love that part about it. And then when it comes to Spotify, like, does it cost money to put your music on there? It doesn't cost money, right?
No, but it doesn't pay money either.
Right. And that's what the argument that I would give people. Like, if you're in a big band and I understand the argument where, again, I hate to use Taylor Swift. I don't really know any of her music. She's just a big person, and I know she makes a ton of money from that, right? As opposed
Yeah,
to people on the other side of the spectrum are not making very much. But, just a quick thought financially, like, you'd have to charge a lot more money. Obviously, if you pull more money, stuff like that works in large scale because you put somebody like Taylor Swift on there, right? And
yeah,
then other people that make up everything else, that are listening to everything else. Uh, to quickly sum it up, I just look at it as like, you know what? As a band, you don't pay anything, and you get people that will come across your music. Like, if you're getting 1 million listens a year or something like that, well, then there's probably that's probably a problem. But for people that are getting like maybe thousands of listens, several thousands of those listens may have never happened if you didn't have the opportunity to be on something that somebody created where we can all kind of come together for that thing and make it kind of easy to find your stuff. That's the flip side of that. I'm not
yeah,
pro one way or the other. I'm sure there's better ways to do it, but just to simply look at it, there's so many bands that I would have never heard if it wasn't for either Spotify or Apple Music or something that you could definitely find a lot of negatives in. But for me personally, I'm going to look at it and say, you know what? There's a lot of bands I would have never heard. So if they're not having to pay anything, then I'm glad that they at least put their stuff there. I feel bad that obviously more money could be made, but at the same time, for there to be more money to be made, models don't change. They're not going to take money from one person. All they're going to do is charge more money to everybody else, which then means
yeah,
your audience is going to get smaller and smaller because it's going to be too expensive to utilize that. So if you
yeah,
just look at it from the positive, a lot of people got to come across your stuff that may never have.
yeah. And for us, it's like, I mean, we're too. Um, we've never been interested in money. Maybe to a point that's bad for the band because I mean it costs money to be a band. We could have been smarter about that, but it's so uninteresting.
Yeah.
Money. We just want to play, and we just want people to be able to listen to us, and it works well for us with both social media and these streaming sites, just to get our music out there, of course. Then, from a political stance, we may not agree with everything because I think all everything that's really big corporate money making business is they don't have the culture in that's not why they do it, so to speak. And it
Right.
hurts some artists. It doesn't hurt us. We're a punk rock band from Sweden. We have jobs and we can feed our family anyway. But if it's a struggling artist, I think you should be paid for your work, even if your work is culture. But I mean, yeah, Spotify is great for small bands or any other streaming services like Bandcamp, everything. And I tried to teach my daughters that doom scrolling is bad. I don't like it myself either. But as you said, I love the fact that I can connect with you
Right.
through like social media. Or we talked to a band from Greece recently that we just discovered each other. And like, should we do some shows together? And I wouldn't have heard their music if it wasn't for all these sites. So it's
Right.
really good. Now my oldest daughter is here and wondering why I'm still up. So I have to say, hey, this is Numi.
Hello, it's good to meet you.
Mobil. Tack så mycket. Godnatt.
Godnatt.
I only had one last thing, and it's all your other music, such as The Stormy Sea. I'm sure copies might still be available, but for anybody that wants to not just hear your music, are there other places that you know of? You did mention that it's easier to get a hold of your music, but for me personally, like if I had just come across your band on this album, and I'm gonna look you
Yeah.
up and see, oh shoot, there's 5 other albums, I might be curious to then track down,
Uh,
listen to some of those. Are there other places that people should go if you know if they're available?
I think that because we have so many different labels, I mean, there's a couple of labels that's done more than one record with us, but it's been a few years between each release, and we have had multiple labels on the same release just to cover Europe because it's small independent labels. I would say the easiest thing is, well, today maybe you could try Cortex, which is a big name in Germany. I think they have some stuff, and otherwise just make contact with Blisterhead, write to us, and we can point you in the right direction depending on where you are. I don't think it's a I don't know, I'm not aware of any big hub that would get you anything, but we have a couple of represses from our old albums on vinyl as well. So if we don't have any copies left, we probably know which label has and can point you in the right direction.
Perfect. Well,
Yeah.
then on that note, Andreas, thank you very much. I appreciate you taking all the time you did. Best of luck. And then we will be talking again here in a couple days.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Really nice to meet you, and I'm so glad that there are people in the world like you who shines a light on our small small world. Yeah, I
Right.
dig it. Thank you. I'll talk to you on Friday, and take care.
All right. You too. Thank you very much.
Bye.